Hiya! So, welcome to my YouTube channel, Laura Learns Mora. I am Laura Chichak Roy, and I thought I would try something different for me. So far on my channel, I have done short videos that are about random facts. So I thought this time that maybe I would share some of my writing um, and see how that goes. But basically, I've written some novelettes and some stories, and I've written one novel, which you can purchase if you're interested through Amazon. So I'll put the description and information in at the bottom of the video. And I thought today that I would read from Samuel and I, which is the novel that I wrote. So it has 20 chapters, but I'm only going to read from the first one. So I've not done this before, so I apologize if as I'm going along, if I mess up the words or anything, or if you get bored of looking at me while I read it, you can go about doing whatever you want around your flat or apartment or whatever, and just leave me on in the background if you like. And sorry if you randomly hear the cat in the background. He is 20 years old and he makes this like noise where he's like, and just try to get your attention. But he's got his food, his water, and his tray is fine, so he's fine. So if you hear him in the background, that's what that is. So, chapter 1, and it's called Smitty and the Neighborhood. I've come too far to turn back now. For some reason, I thought it would be easy to watch one of the persons closest to me die. I didn't do anything to instigate it, but it didn't do anything to stop it either. Yes, I felt guilty, but to everyone else, I was the victim. There have been many times I thought about ending it. I'd become desensitized to the act of suicide over the years. I know for some people, they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They feel the only option is to end their pain. However, it seems to me to be a selfish act. I don't feel the need to sugarcoat it. Maybe I've become too cynical about it all. I know from personal experience that people most affected by it are the ones left behind. Of course, the people who attempt or succeed in committing suicide have their own reasons. Okay, they're gone and they no longer have to worry about their own lives, but they inadvertently shatter the lives of others, mainly the people who love them. So I guess I do have a sense of guilt. Not because I felt that it was my fault, but because I didn't feel anything. One of the people I loved the most and whose opinion meant the world to me decided to end it all when I was 14. Why this single act alone led me to spiral out of control, I'll never know. I will never know. Under the circumstances, it would have been very easy for me to turn to vandalism, drugs, or violence in the kind of neighborhood I grew up in. But it didn't turn out that way. I had an interesting childhood up until that point. My neighborhood could be ranked as one step up from sleeping on the streets. I felt love in my household. It was outside my home that caused me to have an almost selective introverted personality. I was born into a loving family, loving yet slightly screwed up. Denial was a great personal protector. I'd always known there was something different about me from my other siblings, but I chose not to see it. It would have been very easy for me to go from treading water to sinking in it. Instead, I chose to look at my surroundings and blend in. I was poor and everyone around me was as well, but even in poverty, there are degrees of separation. However, for the most part, everyone I grew up with had a similar upbringing. It's really quite strange. It's been 20 years since I thought about the summer when I met Samuel. But it is as clear and fresh in my mind today as it was then. As though nothing has changed. As if I haven't changed. But I know people have moved on. Well, the world has moved on. Everyone has got themselves into a frenzy. If things were to have happened differently, I might have found it easier to sleep at night. Some kids had it really hard. My friend Samuel's life was especially a miserable one. I guess you have to appreciate his upbringing, or the lack thereof. While most kids played on the street corners or hung out in arcades or laundromats, he was in a homemade prison. I met Samuel the day he moved in. It was a few streets away in a nice area of town. We got to be so close. I brought him into my inner circle of friends. His mom used to let him play with the kids in the neighborhood all the time. However, one night, everything changed. His mother changed. That summer seemed to take such a long time to get going. All the kids on my block were so excited. When that third week in June approached every year, kids around the neighborhood rejoiced. Summer break had begun. No more cocky 20-something teachers yelling at you for petty things such as chewing gum or passing notes in class. There was no dreaded detention either. Well, the humiliation of writing the same sentences 200 times on the chalkboard. Teachers were so lame, as if they would remember these moments and we thought they'd be life-changing. The strange thing about summer break was we always found ourselves hanging around the school when it was closed. I suppose we thought we were being dangerous. There was no one guarding the school for those 3 months. As children, we thought that it was like breaking the law to climb the padlock fence and get into the playground. There was a bright map of America painted on the ground at the back of the school. I know now we only got one state right, and that was the one that we lived in. I was as carefree as a child as I want to be as an adult. Had no curfew, and as long as I didn't get into any major trouble, my parents weren't strict. Safety in the neighborhood was not great, but we'd walk around in small groups. It was an unspoken rule not to go out and play without at least one other person. Crime and drugs tend to go hand in hand amidst poverty. When you need money for the roof over your head or food for your kids, you have to take drastic measures. We didn't go to bed without having any food, but we have gone to bed feeling hungry. With the exception of money, I think Samuel and I were birds of a feather. He was born to privilege, yet he was lonely. I was born to poverty, but had loads of friends. I think we related to each other in the sense that we were the extremes of our situations. Actually, I was always the poorest of my friends. They assumed I wouldn't be able to buy the coolest new toy at Christmas or afford to go on school trips. There were times we had to provide $5 to go for a school trip for the gas to take us on the field trip. Often the kids were right. I didn't have the money, but they were constantly trying to make me feel inferior. Samuel was different. He didn't care about my status. He wasn't trying to impress me or rub my nose in his wealth. He just wanted to be my friend. His mother came from money, and when she married his father, she had to choose love over money. They lived just outside my neighborhood in the good part of town. Samuel still had to attend my school by law because in those days it wasn't common for people to get homeschooled. Samuel's father made a good living as an accountant. Samuel didn't want for anything. Not that he would. When his parents first met, they apparently fell deeply in love. I could never imagine how that could be the case, considering how frigid she seemed. According to Samuel's father, she wasn't always a nice queen. To be honest, my memories of her are quite vague. It wasn't until later that everything changed. I prefer to reminisce about the happy times in my childhood that, oddly enough, don't include her.